Croeso i Sgwrsiau ar Arweinyddiaeth a gyflwynir gan Academi Wales. Ar ein podlediad, rydyn ni'n gwahodd gwesteion i siarad am eu taith arweinyddol ac yn myforio ar rai o'r ysbrydoliaethau a'r gwersi maen nhw'n wedi dysgu ar hyd y ffordd. Welcome to Conversations on Leadership, hosted by Academy Wales. On our podcast, we invite guests to talk about their leadership journey and reflect on some of the inspirations and lessons they've learned along the way. Thank you for joining us. I'm your host, Molly Dacey, and for this episode, I'd like to welcome Professor Uzo Iwobi.
Hello.
Uzo is a qualified lawyer by profession. She was called to the Nigerian bar. She was a strategic advisor to the Police National Diversity Team based at the Home Office. She was a commissioner for the Commission for Racial Equality UK. She is the Chief Executive of Race Council Cymru, which is an anti-racism umbrella body in Wales. Uzo works as the first black woman to be appointed as a specialist policy advisor for equalities to the Welsh Government, advising the Minister for Social Justice and the First Minister. In 2022, Queen Elizabeth II honoured Uzo in her Platinum Jubilee Honours List with a CBE for her services to race equality and championing diversity and inclusion. In 2023, Uzo was appointed as an independent advisor to the Senedd Parliamentary Commission. So as you can tell by the introduction, Uzo is obviously a very busy woman, and I'm very grateful for her finding the time to sit down with us. So thank you so much for joining us. If it's okay to begin, I'd love to ask you some quick fire questions just so our listeners can get to know you a bit better.
Sure.
So what was the last book that you read?
So I've been reading some absolutely brilliant books on leadership. Some authors really speak to me, but the one that I want to talk about today was written by Dr. Chuma Osuchukwu, who's a Nigerian leader, coach, executive advisor, and an all-round leadership guru. And it's called The Learning Leader. And it talks about the concept of servant leadership and talks about the three perspectives of change leadership. How can you effectively drive change as a leader without losing your people? So I found that really, really interesting.
That sounds like a very good recommendation. What was the last thing that you learned?
I had the honour and privilege to interview the First Minister literally last week.
Oh.
And it was because he kindly gave us some time to interview him for a film that we were producing for the Windrush elders and the Windrush generation of 75. And I took the opportunity, when you're sitting in front of a great leader that you admire, I took the opportunity to talk to him about leadership. And I asked him what were the top tips for leadership as the First Minister of Wales. And he talked about being a person who actively listens to others. Being a person, he said there are two kinds of listeners in a room. There are people who genuinely listen to understand, and there are others who listen to respond. And you can tell because they're very, very quick to jump in and they want their voices heard.
Yeah.
And he said, I would like to be a leader always. And I encourage people to be a leader that would actually listen to understand and explore how you can find synergies between different people. And then he also talked about the fact that he believed in the concept of a distributed leadership model, which I thought it's really transformed my life when I worked as a specialist advisor. He was kind enough to share that nugget of gold very early on, that we are all leaders, irrespective of the role that you fulfill. We are all leaders. And if you plug your gap in the puzzle of the world, then it's a complete picture.
Yeah.
We're all little pieces, little cogs in a whole wheel. And if we do our best, if we do the bits we can, 100% of the time, we are all going to be effective, because if one part is lagging behind, the whole group suffers. So the concept that we're all, whether you're a cleaner, whether you're an administrator, whether you're the chief executive or director level or supervisor, middle management, you hold the mantle of leadership. Respect that mantle, be accountable for that mantle, and know that the world judges you because you do your job well or not.
Yeah.
And so I was quite struck by that. And he also shared the concept of allow yourself to be human. You're human, you know, and make space for yourself to also grow as a leader and learn from others. He said, you know, when you have a closed attitude and you think you know everything, no, actually you don't, and none of us do. So in my own leadership journey, I believe that the youngest and newest person in the charity that I run, Race Council Cymru, can teach me something. And often I struggle with having just yes people around me, because I'm quite a strong personality. And I want people to say, actually, sit down. That's wrong. I want my team to challenge me.
Yeah.
It is healthy. It is healthy not to have people so terrified they can't tell you, oh, I feel uncomfortable with something you just did. It's so important that feedback is both ways. It's not just one directional. So I've learned so much. I was just listening to the First Minister last week, and I thought, what an incredible servant, humble leader we have in Wales that, you know, is so caring about the peoples of Wales from all diverse backgrounds. And whether you're a Welsh speaker or you're not a Welsh speaker, whether you're from, you've come here because of war and for refuge, whether you've come here and you're settled community or economic migrant, whatever you've come here for, we are the people of Wales. And
it's
so wonderful. Yes.
What is your greatest strength?
Oh my gosh.
Every time I ask this, people say, oh, you should ask someone else what my greatest strength is. And I'm like, no, I want to know yours.
Exactly. Well, I would say honestly that I'm absolutely tenacious. I refuse to bow to the statement, it's impossible. I will stretch myself and people around me to, I think, breaking point. Because we can do it. We can do it better. We can do it better than we did it before. We can continue to give the best service to the people who we're here to serve. I think that is so important. I'm very audacious. I believe in audacious leadership. Dare to do something different. Dare to reach out to that vulnerable member of our community. Dare to speak up for the voices of those who are disadvantaged and marginalized, who to themselves may feel that they are voiceless. We have a platform to create change, bring forward those voices from the rural parts of Wales, from the socio-economically deprived parts of Wales, from diverse ethnic backgrounds, from the protected characteristics. You have people who are LGBTQAI, you have people who are disabled, people who are from diverse religious extractions, you have people from diverse ethnic backgrounds, Gypsy, Roma people, Eastern Europeans, Black, Asian and minority ethnic, so many people, the rights of children and young people, vulnerable adults, you know, adults with learning difficulties. Where are we going to create an equal Wales if we're not more inclusive of the voices of people who are minoritized because of their lives?
Yeah. That kind of follows on to this. What motivates you?
I long to see a world where life is fairer for all. My children have suffered a lot being born to African parents in a predominantly white Welsh society, finding a sense of belonging, and for them as Black children of Wales to feel Wales is home, I belong. Creating the space for that kind of expression of belonging is something that drives me. Wanting to see people who have suffered for so long, historic injustices done to the Windrush generation corrected, that inspires me. I think hearing from those who live in socially deprived and economically deprived areas, having them come forward and participate on this table of brotherhood and sisterhood and decision making, especially about their lives, that inspires me. I think seeing a more anti-racist Wales is my biggest bugbear. I want to see Wales eradicate racism by 2030. I mean, when the First Minister and the Minister for Social Justice and Chief Whip Jane Hart said, I want to see an anti-racist Wales by 2030. I'm telling you, I bawled. I just cried so much, people, because I've suffered. My children have suffered. We've been spat at. People have thrown things at the door, at the window, told us to go back home to the jungle where we came from. But my kids were born here. They come from Wales. Yeah. You know, unless people describe Wales as a jungle, which would be very rude. But, you know, I've had a neighbor key the N-word on the bonnet of my car, which she sold me. She sold me her own car, took my money, and then one night had enough, had a drink, and was scratching a giant N-word on the bonnet.
Oh, it's disgusting.
And it's just, what kind of a world is that? That's not the kind of a Welsh society that we deserve to live in. This is a beautiful country, and doing dysgu Cymraeg. I'm learning Welsh, doing hoffi siarad Cymraeg with my Nigerian accent.
Oh, no, that's fabulous.
Yeah.
Oh, that's brilliant. And then last of these kind of questions, what profession other than your own would you like to attempt?
Gosh, I was trained as a lawyer, but I haven't actually practiced law. I taught law for 9 years in a college, but in a university. But the strange thing, sometimes I wonder what would it have been like if I had actually had that opening as a solicitor or barrister and gone into court. What different experiences, because I've gone down the equalities trajectory and social justice areas of work. Now, if I could not be any of these things, and you asked me what else would you really have liked to be, I would have liked to be a preacher in a church.
Really?
Honestly, I always said I want to go to churches and tell them about Jesus. I'm really a big Jesus fan.
You're very passionate.
Yeah. I love public speaking, so yeah.
Well, thank you for answering those. It's really interesting just to get to know a bit more about you.
Thank you.
But people who've heard your leadership journey will know how inspiring your whole story is. And based on that, our theme today is women in leadership. So, in your opinion, how can we encourage more girls and women to pursue careers that are traditionally male dominant or leadership roles?
I think it stems back to adults around the lives of children, because often when children begin to talk about what they want to do, please don't snuff their dreams out and say, like if somebody comes up and says, a child says, I want to be a pilot, I want to be in the Royal Air Force. Why do you want to say, no, actually don't? Because you could do A, B, C, D. Yeah. Allow people to dream their own dreams and catch their own visions. I think it starts from the parents around. When my daughter was very young, she, from the 18 months, she would toddle up to a toy piano and start tinkling with the keys. And I said to my husband, there is something musical in this girl. And I remember my parents being traditionally Nigerian people and academics. My dad was a professor of crop science, and my mom was also a university graduate. And they said to me, no, you can't have her be a musician because she's going to starve. You need her to be in a profession, make sure she studies law, then she can do music as a side thing. And honestly, I was swaying towards that. But then this child's determination to keep with the piano, she started lessons at 6 and then powered through. And today she's an 8-time, she's broken a record as the first Black artist in Wales to have had 8 consecutive singles on BBC Radio Wales A-list.
That is amazing.
It's incredible.
That's
so
amazing.
It's about hearing people, young people, remove the boundaries of this is a male role, this is a female role. Women, my sister's daughter decided to study engineering. People were like, oh, that's odd. That's a man's world.
Yeah.
Who says it's a man's world? It can be a woman's world, So why can't a woman want to be a construction engineer? Why can't a woman want to be a nuclear engineer? Open your eyes, people. It's a new world.
Yeah.
Get your children, get the young people around you. Teachers need to encourage that ability to be creative and to go within yourself to find what it is that grips your heart. And I do think that a lot of limiting beliefs come from adults and the parents and the society in which we grow. So we all need to actively lift the bars and allow people to be as creative and as daring as they want to be.
Oh, absolutely. Having just spoken about how we can promote gender equality from a young age, how do you think organisations can create a more inclusive and supportive environment for women in leadership?
I think open the doors, remove the traditional restrictions, equalize pay. That's the first thing. We have the Equal Pay Act of 1970, and since then, women's pay continues to be, continues to be disparity in pay structures in many organizations. Opportunities to act up in roles should be gender neutralized. Honestly, I think that when you come into a boardroom, who do you expect to see? Very few women expect to see other women as well.
Yeah.
So we need to understand that women, men, we all make equally good leaders. There is no reason why your gender should determine your altitude. And I believe it is your attitude that determines your altitude rather than your gender. So we need to strip away the things that have blocked us, that have restricted us, that have obscured the future that we could potentially have. When I think of key role models, I think of people like Maya Angelou, who just defied the odds as a Black child who was really couldn't speak for the first few years of her life because she thought her voice had the power to kill, and yet became one of the world's most prolific poets and all-time inspirational woman. Yeah. And I think of the 3 women who helped to produce the launch of the first rockets from America, and they're Black women who did the mathematical calculations. When you think about the inventions of Black women in particular, it's mind-blowing, and that's part of what we're doing in Black history, is teaching about the history of Wales. I mean, here in Wales, we have the first female Black headmistress, and I don't think we've even had a male headmaster who's Black in Wales that I know. I can't think of one, but at least we had Betty Campbell, and she told me that she was told, you will never even be a teacher, let alone headmistress. She said, I cried. I was put down publicly and told, never. Just stop dreaming. It's not going to happen. And she became a teacher, and she became the first Black headmistress and taught her school Black history. And you know the interesting thing? One of the young women that she influenced and taught from when she was a tiny tot was a lady called Chantel Horton. And today, Chantel is a senior lecturer in Cardiff Metropolitan. and is the director of the DARPL, the Diversity and Anti-Racism Learning, Early Years Learning, that Welsh Government is rolling out. Inspired by Betty Campbell, to dare to be different, dare to stand up. And she said, hang on, you need somebody to create all these resources. I'm here. I can do it. I was a Betty Campbell student. This is how the world goes round.
Yeah. In an ideal world, we would all work for organisations which encourage gender diversity and all equality, but it's not always the case. So how can women leaders effectively address gender bias and discrimination in the workplace?
Call it out. Don't be apologetic for addressing injustice on the basis of any grounds. Call it out, challenge it, raise it to the fore, have a conversation about it. I don't think we need to be militant all the time. There's a time to be gentle, there's a time to be harsh, there's a time to be tough and critical. Just judge your audience. If they're receptive, have that conversation. If they're not, call it out. And don't be shy about naming and shaming. I'm sorry, because change didn't happen. When you look at the rights, women's rights to vote, all the activism that happened, many, many years ago with the women's liberation movement and with the National Coalition of Women, the Women's Institute, the work of this nation, so many bright and wonderful women have forged the path that we trod now. So you dare to be that leader of the future as a young woman, to say, I want my voice heard. And that's okay. It's okay to be pushy. Why not? Men are pushy.
Yeah.
I want to be pushy sometimes.
Yeah.
And sometimes I'm happy to be pushed as well. So it's about give and take. And it's so important that we are all able to participate and be included. Yeah.
My last question is about how some organisations may see things like equality, diversity and inclusion as kind of a tick box exercise rather than a strategic commitment. So how do you think that we can ensure the progress made in promoting women in leadership and all equality continues and is sustainable, like long term?
I think it's a hearts and mind thing. I've learned that if you force somebody, they accept it just because you're forcing them. But there is no real heart's commitment. I think training and education, and I mean not just training, but training with trainers who have lived experiences of racism or gender bias, or they're disabled people themselves, or from diverse ethnic people. So individual need style training is transformational for an organization. If you've never come across somebody who's lost opportunities because of their gender, you're not going to understand what it means, or because of their race. And I do think that being open to learn is a critical leadership tool, quality that you need to grow if you don't have it. It's so important to be willing to listen, to understand, not willing to be listening, to respond. Two different concepts. I'm a huge believer in the fact that unless we are able to sit around a table of dialogue and hear each other properly and walk in the moccasins of each other, we would never know what life is like. I mean, I'd welcome somebody to come and live alongside me and get spat at on the street and be told to F off to the country we come from. This is life. One woman was cycling in Cardiff the other day. I was speaking at a BBC radio program, and the lady came on and said, I had not done anything to anybody. I was on my bicycle cycling to work like I do every single day. And this person winds down their window, F off, shouting. And so I was so startled. My bike slipped and I fell off my back. I just thought, what did I do to this person? I don't know this person. So there is a lot about opening up dialogue with people who have lived experience. Nobody sends their children to school to be abused. Black people's children get abused every single day. And to prepare those children to live in a society where they are able to participate and be equal and be taken seriously, it takes a hell of a lot of work for yourself mentally to be okay before you help someone else. So I think having people like who have lived experience in a room together, talking about what they have been through, exploring how life could be different, how things could be improved, phenomenal and highly, highly recommended.
Thank you so much for all the stories and ideas and advice today. Just before we end, I'd like to do a few more quickfire questions, if that's okay. So do you or have you ever played a musical instrument?
Yes, I've played the flute.
Have you?
Yes.
Do you still play?
I can still play, but I'm not a huge expert. But I used to teach a marching band, when I was 13.
That's amazing.
I persuaded my headmistress to buy a band, and I'll teach the kids to strap the drums and march. And my school then, and they bought these drum kits with the belts. Yeah. And I said to them, I want to have a uniform that everybody can be in the blue pinafore, and then inside shirt, everybody can wear white, because I'm the leader, I'll wear pink. I was only 13.
You needed to make it very clear
that I was in charge, and I was conducting the band, and we were marching. Our school came top second.
Wow.
In the whole region in Nigeria.
That's
all those
brilliant.
Years. Yeah.
What is your favourite type of food?
Oh, it has to be. If it's not Nigerian Igbo tribe food, which is like jollof rice, fried chicken, plantains, and stew, tomato chicken or goat meat stew. Oh, then it has to be, interestingly, Chinese food. I love Chinese food. Oh. And I've learned how to make Chinese food from scratch.
Oh, that's amazing.
So if it's not my Igbo, of course, anytime my Igbo Nigerian food, spot on. But if I can't have that, give me Chinese food, or a little beautiful, well-baked, home-baked Welsh cake will do. Oh, I love Welsh cake.
I always get so hungry when I ask the question.
I know. Hot from the Welsh oven.
I love a Welsh cake right now.
I love a Welsh cake. Yeah.
What is your favourite noise?
I think the noise of my children and my family. I'm a new grandma. Even hearing my little granddaughter turned 1 month yesterday.
Oh, really?
She's only been on the earth for a month.
Oh,
I'm just hearing her gurgle or cry, or the whole family gathered, and voices. And in Nigeria, we talk loud. Well, my husband's mixed heritage. His mother's white, his mother's black. He's more reserved than me. But those who sound like me are like, oh, all that noise. Yeah. Gorgeous. I love it.
Are you more of a morning person or a night owl?
Night owl. Oh, Lord. I can work till 4 a.m. in the morning, but don't wake me up. I hate waking up for anything. If you leave me alone, I'd love to sleep till 12 noon and wake up leisurely. Yes. I work very late, and I love working when everybody's quieting down in the night. Yeah. And I just want to sit down there and begin to work. I'm a very strange person.
And lastly, if you could have one superpower, what would it be?
I would love to make the world an instantly equal, equitable, justice-filled world where we all matter. If I could wave my magic wand and transform life, everybody be the same sort of salary, the same sort of opportunities, remove all the limitations that we place upon ourselves, strip away the barriers of society, and let disabled people participate, let Black people sit around tables with their white counterparts as equals. That is what I would do.
Amazing. Again, thank you so much for joining us, Uzo. I hope you've enjoyed the experience.
I love talking to you, Molly. Anytime.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Mae un podlediad Sgwrsiau ar Arweinyddiaeth ar gael trwy ein gwefan. Mae'r hawlfraint y podlediad yma yn cael ei gadw gan Llywodraeth Cymru. Our Conversations on Leadership podcast is available through our website. Copyright of this podcast is held by the Welsh Government.